What's one of the most famous Carnage storylines from the 90s? Well, that would be Maximum Carnage. And you are at Comicstorian, where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be looking at a classic, an absolute classic, everyone, Maximum Carnage. We broke this up into multi-parts before, but we're grabbing all those videos and giving you the Maximum Carnage full story. So remember, this is a 90s storyline, so enjoy it for what it is. Here we go, Marvel Comics Maximum Carnage. At Ravencroft, a maximum security institution for the criminally insane, the serial killer Cletus Cassidy sings while 5 armed officers bring him to his doctor's appointment. The officers open the door to the examination room and they tell Dr. Pornella that her patient has arrived. Dr. Landis asks if it's really a good idea. This is a man dressed up in a gaudy red costume and he slaughtered hundreds. Pornella tells Landis to relax. Cassidy has been residing in the vault. They have given him a clean bill of health aside from the unexplained anomaly in his blood. Well, that sounds pretty scary. You better be careful though. There's a monster living in my blood. Don't want it to be accidentally freed. Pornella takes Cletus's blood, but as she turns around, Carnage pours out of where Cletus was stuck, and he yells, "I wasn't lying! There's a monster in there!" As the symbiote wraps itself around Cletus's body, a tendril shoots out from his arm and into one of the officers. Once Cletus is completely covered, he breaks free from his restraints, shouting, "You should have known better than to trust a raving lunatic!" Carnage begins to slash away at all of the officers and other doctors until only Pornella remains. Pornella tells him to please let her go. She is his only hope. She can ease the pain. And Carnage tells her, "I am deeply touched by your sincerity, but unfortunately for you, your entire life has been a sick joke, a total waste. Not only are you irresponsibly releasing the worst serial killer of all, but I'm going to celebrate my newfound freedom by slaying everyone here." Moments later, as Carnage cleaves his way through the halls, he shouts to everyone to put a little more life into it. "I need more practice. I need to be my best for my long-awaited reunion with Spider-Man and Venom." But as Carnage hacks his way through the personnel, a voice calls out to him yelling, "That's the spirit! Keep killing!" Carnage stops and asks, "What is this?" He seems to have acquired a cheering section. "What kind of a nutcase would egg me on?" He rips the door off the cell where the voice came from, and inside a woman asks, "Why did you stop torturing these people?" "I was really into this in high-pitched tones. Big fan, by the way." Carnage walks in stating, "Oh, mama! Something tells me you're my type of girl. Kill here often." The woman tells him that her name is Shriek, and that this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Cut her free and let her join in on the slaughter circuit. Carnage asks, "Why would I share my action?" And Shriek says, "Because you have nothing to lose and so much to gain. Besides, haven't you heard? 2 can kill as cheaply as 1. Later, as Carnage is singing while carrying Shriek and swinging through the city, Shriek asks, "What's your story? What is your tale of woe?" Carnage explains that he used to be your standard, shy, underachieving serial killer until some bureaucratic screw-up stuffed him into a holding cell with Eddie Brock. Eddie was his kind of people, though, real sicko. But I was still planning on killing him. But then an unexpected visitor came calling, an alien symbiote, and it turned Eddie back into Venom. Unfortunately for them, though, in their rush to escape the prison, they accidentally left a little souvenir behind. Life would be grand if Spider-Man and Venom hadn't decided to temporarily put aside their differences and gang up against me. I might still have beaten them if that wall crawler hadn't cheated and used Sonics to catch both me and Venom by surprise. But for what it seems, my symbiote managed to mutate my metabolism through one of the cuts that I had gotten in the fight. Not sure how, but I can generate a dead ringer of a symbiote." Just then a shadow swings by on a string of web, and Carnage asks, "Is this my lucky day? Because I do believe there's a spider in that alley." But as he gets close, the shadow jumps out and a 6-armed Spider-Man doppelganger springs out growling. Carnage looks at him, "Hey, that's supposed to be my line, and I'm supposed to be the monster here." Shriek tells him to correct her if she's wrong, but that is definitely not your parents' Spider-Man. Carnage knocks Doppelganger back, but he swipes away at Carnage's tendrils and lunges forward. Carnage says that while he was locked up, he did hear some goofy rumors about a pack of evil duplicates from outer space. But nah, it was all too hokey for words. Shriek tells him actually he's kind of cute. Cute in a sick, utterly deranged sort of way. Carnage begins wrapping the Doppelganger up, stating, "You're gonna have to get over it, killing is what I do!" And just before Carnage can squeeze the life out of the Doppelganger, Shriek fires a sonic blast separating the two of them. Carnage shouts, asking, "Since when have you been able to do that?" Shriek pets the Doppelganger, stating that every woman likes to keep a few secrets, and that's not all she wants to keep. So Carnage sighs, "Oh, alright, baby makes 3. He can keep you company while some personal business is settled." Meanwhile, across town, Peter Parker stops at a local Chinese takeout joint to get some dinner for him and Mary Jane when he stops to listen to the radio in store. He's been doing the Spider-Man thing for so long that he's supposed to be taking a break from crime fighting. But as he hears reports of a bizarre massacre at Ravencroft Institute, he quickly leaves before even getting his food. He runs into an alleyway nearby, changing into Spider-Man, telling himself that he really hopes it's not Cassidy. But that's really the only person that it could be. He climbs up the building and swings across the city when suddenly his spidey sense goes off. He narrowly dodges being hit by a sonic blast when Doppelganger lunges at him. He asks, "What's this? Some Spider-Man doppelganger and a weird-looking lady?" Shriek tells him that he's the one wearing the web-covered spandex, so he should think about who the weird one is. Doppelganger just misses Spider-Man landing on the ground, but jumps it back up, charging in once again. Spider-Man spins around, punching him in the face, and then springs forward, knocking him back. Just before landing, the Doppelganger continues punching Spider-Man with all of his arms, knocking the wind out of him. Spider-Man gasps for air as he webs up Doppelganger's feet, but there's an ear-piercing shriek as another sonic blast is fired. Spider-Man webs up the rest of Doppelganger's arms and jumps up, and Shriek says that she can see why Carnage hates him. He's always hopping around. So Spider-Man asks, how does she know Carnage? And Shriek asks, haven't you heard? The two of us are an item. As Spider-Man continues to jump out of the way of Shriek's blast, he jumps down and hits Shriek in the forehead, stunning her. There's a loud growl, and the Doppelganger throws himself into Spider-Man, shattering several ribs. Spider-Man's body is flung off the ledge, bouncing off the buildings before landing into the garbage below. He gets ready to follow, but seeing Shriek knocked out, Doppelganger picks her up and escapes. Spider-Man sees the Doppelganger swing by and gets ready to give chase, but still feeling the pain from the cracked ribs. He falls over and passes out. Meanwhile, at the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson opens his office doors to see Carnage sitting right on his desk. Carnage says, "Hi, honey, I'm back! Can you guess who's gonna help me go on a Venom hunt? I'll give you one hint. He's turning a sickly shade of green right now before my eyes." Back with Spider-Man, he reels from the pain as he tries to get up when a group of street thugs surround him. Just then, Cloak and Dagger appear, asking, "Do you really expect us to sit by while a defenseless man is murdered?" Dagger throws light blasts at the men, blinding them, while Cloak rounds them up, getting ready to teleport them away. Dagger then stops him, stating that everyone is disarmed. They have to help Spider-Man. A short while later, inside of the Holy Ghost Church, Spider-Man screams as his ribs are set back into place. Cloak asks what happened. Spider-Man groans as he leans up, stating that he just ran into some sonic-powered lunatic named Shriek and a leftover doppelganger from the Infinity Wars on her leash. Don't get him started on the Carnage the Barbarian. Dagger then says that maybe he should stay and rest. But Spider-Man tells her that he appreciates her concern, but he needs to get right back out there. Just then, the Spidey sense begins to go off, and the doppelganger bursts through the window, shooting webs everywhere. A strand just misses Spider-Man, and he tells everyone to be careful, as razor-barbed webbing. Spider-Man then begins to ask where is the doppelganger's keep, when suddenly there's a loud thoom, and a sonic blast destroys the roof of the church. Shriek jumps down asking, "Did I kill everyone in one fell swoop?" Spider-Man jumps out of Cloak's shadow, stating, "No, a little spider warned me at last second." Cloak then looks at Shriek and says that she looks familiar. And Shriek tells her, "That's right, I was merely a downtown drug dealer trying to make ends meet when your endless black abyss first introduced me to the satisfaction of madness years ago. Since then, I've refined my abilities into a work of art, and I wanted to thank you." The doppelganger launches himself up, tackling Spider-Man to the ground, and Spider-Man shouts, "Can someone get this thing off me?" As the five struggle in fighting each other and not hitting, a thug is thrown in from the front door, and a voice asks, "What is going on here?" Carnage walks in asking, "I was hoping you didn't eat him without me." Doppelganger begins to shoot more razor webbing, and Cloak jumps in front, allowing it to fire into the void while Spider-Man webs up Shriek's hands and face. As he jumps around to the wall though, Carnage shoots out tendrils from his fingertips asking, "And where do you think you're going?" The ends of the tendrils all start stabbing into the wall, creating a cage. And Carnage then says, "Oh, would you look at that? A trapped spider!" Spider-Man says that he's got to admit, it really does look bad for the good guys. He's got nowhere to go but down. He kicks off the wall and punches down into Carnage's head while the others try to handle Shriek and the doppelganger. Spider-Man starts laying into Carnage, but a tendril from his chest shoots out, slashing into Spider-Man's side. Shriek focuses her blast on Dagger, shouting that the light shields are weak. Her beloved Cloak literally drove her insane. So the very least that she can do is pay him back in kind by murdering his pathetic guardian angel right before his helpless eyes. Dagger screams as an explosion of light blinds everyone, knocking them back. Carnage jumps up to his feet, hitting Shriek, shouting the privilege of slaughtering Spider-Man is his! Soon you will learn what it means to cross Carnage! But just before Carnage can hit her again, the doppelganger leaps out, allowing Shriek to escape. A short while later, Spider-Man and Cloak start to get back up when Cloak realizes what happened to Dagger, and he screams out her name. Cloak begins shaking with anger, shouting that the witch destroyed the one thing on the planet that mattered to him. Spider-Man gets up, stating that he needs to take it easy, but Cloak says that he saw what happened to her. After all they've been through, just to watch her burst into light, to disappear in a flash, she didn't even leave anything to bury. Spider-Man tries to calm Cloak down, but Cloak yells that he will not calm down. He just lost family. His blood won't cool until the scum responsible for Dagger's death is paid. With a blink of an eye, Cloak fades into the shadows. Across town on a rooftop, Carnage falls right behind Shriek, telling her, "That was an edgy move going after Spider-Man on your own." But she responds, "Oh, come on, Carnage. A kill's a kill. Heck, you dust people all the time." And Carnage yells, "That's different! The webslinger's mine! Every bone and sinew, every drop of blood and bile, mine!" Shriek says, "Geez, I just thought." And Carnage stops her, yelling, "Thought? Sweet cheeks, that's a vile habit you best learn to break." Just as Carnage leans in, the doppelganger lunges at him, and Carnage says, "Oh look, the pet is feeling protective." He whips a tendril from his back, knocking the doppelganger away. And he tells him, "Back off, bug!" He turns back, pulling back his mask, stating that there's only one leader to this band, and she's looking at him. Shriek wraps his arms around Carnage, stating that that's what she likes about him, besides the fact that he mangles people real neat-like. He's just so masterful. Treat her right and she'll follow him all the way. He pulls his mask back, stating, "That's more like it. How about we celebrate and slaughter a few unsuspecting geeks together?" Later, down in Central Park, an older couple is on their way from spending the day out when the wife says they should have gone down Columbus. Going through the park at night is dangerous. And the husband laughs, "Oh, right, scary, what could possibly?" But that's when Carnage stabs through the roof, ripping it off, asking, "Why do you keep your weathers up? It's convertible weather. Live a little, okay. A very little." Shriek yells, "That's real fair, after all the griping about how she was hogging the kills." And Carnage tells her, "You're right. Would you like to settle for a corpse disposal instead?" She blasts the car and the bodies inside, stating, "Okay." But the sounds of the explosion travel, and an officer runs up, telling Shriek to freeze. She asks if he's kidding. She wouldn't miss this for the world. "Stick 'em, doppelganger!" Suddenly, the razor-sharp barbed webbing wraps itself around the officer's neck, and with one pull of the cord, there's a loud scratch. Carnage walks up with his hand on his hip, stating, "This is what it's all about, kiddos. Bloodshed and chaos. So what say we go find ourselves some real nice folks to share the joy with?" Across town, Spider-Man swings through the city trying to locate Carnage when he notices a streak of fire shooting across the sky. He follows it, and when he turns the corner, he sees Demo Goblin flying by. Spider-Man tries to keep a safe distance behind him to follow, but when Demo Goblin sees Spider-Man's reflection in the mirror, he takes off. Spider-Man quickly whips around the corner, but by the time he sees where the flames went, Demo Goblin flies overhead, throwing a black pumpkin bomb. Spider-Man swings away from it, stating that he's seen these before, but this one isn't exploding. Just then, the black goo shoots out of the bomb, covering Spider-Man and knocking him to the ground. Some people go to try and help Spider-Man, telling him that he needs to get up, but Spider-Man yells, "I can't! What's the use? Why even try?" The Demo Goblin picks up Spider-Man and tells him, "Yes, that was no ordinary bomb. It was meant to give the person a taste of what all sinners must eventually face, unending despair and torment. A priest holds up a cross stating to release Spider-Man. By all that's holy! But Demogoblin looks back, hitting the priest stating, "You shall burn next, man of God." Spider-Man struggles to break free from the darkness, and he says that the answer has always been inside of him, and it's hope. He punches the Demogoblin back, and then the Spidey sense goes off as he throws an orange pumpkin bomb. Spider-Man grabs the priest, jumping out of the way of the explosion, but the impact of landing damages the already cracked ribs. As Spider-Man gets up, he tells himself that he can't show that he's hurting, and Demogoblin flies off into the sky. The thought of falling crosses Spider-Man's mind, but for now he's gonna have to cut his losses and head home. Back over in Central Park, though, the bodies are now beginning to pile up, with Carnage stating that he's going to need a calculator soon. "I can't even keep up!" And that's when a voice shouts, "Monstrosity! We're gonna take a gallon of your blood for every innocent drop that you've spilled!" As Venom swings down, Carnage yells, "Whoa! Pop! Didn't expect to see you here! But hey, stick around! We got some new friends I'd like you to meet!" Later, over at Spider-Man's Soho apartment, there's a knock at the door. Mary Jane goes to answer it, but when she sees who it is, she gasps. Spider-Man jumps over the couch, asking who is it? And as a beaten and battered Eddie Brock falls in, Mary Jane says, "I think it's Venom!" Back in town, Carnage breaks through a wall, yelling, "Come on, everyone! There's no place like home!" Shriek walks in asking, "How do you like it?" "This is where they stored the stage props for all the rock shows. Learned about it when I was a groupie." Carnage brings in everyone, stating, "This is great! Anything that we put our minds to, we can do! Together!" Shriek says, "That's wonderful! And there's just one thing. It smells a lot like sulfur." And outside of the building, Demogoblin is making his way in. Meanwhile, back with Spider-Man, Mary Jane shouts, "Get this thing out of our apartment now!" But Spider-Man tries to tell her that Eddie is in no shape to be moved. She stops him mid-sentence though, yelling, "Blast it, Peter! You can't even keep your promise about not being Spider-Man for 5 minutes. It's bad enough waiting for someone to kill you on the street, but I'm not gonna watch it happen in my own home." She storms out of the apartment. So Spider-Man helps Venom up onto the couch and he asks, "Do you really think we wanted to come here? I only came here because Carnage is back." Spider-Man asks how. "Didn't we destroy him back at Madison Square Garden?" Venom says that he's not sure how the alien survived because his other would have sensed it. All he needs right now is to rest. Spider-Man grabs his costume, stating that he should throw Venom in the vault, but then again, he may also be his best bet for nailing Carnage. So with Mary Jane gone and Venom passed out, what else can he turn to? Moments later, in Black Cat's sun-brightened bedroom, Black Cat wakes up yawning, stating, "That felt good. Maybe I should lie back down for another 10 hours. But just then, Spider-Man clears his throat. Can we talk?" After having some coffee, Spider-Man explains the situation, with Black Cat telling him that it's obvious what they need to do. They gotta help Venom. Back over at the stage prop warehouse, Carnage asks, "What to hit next? There are so many targets!" Demogoblin says that he finds himself having the same problem. "But by following the psychic link to my ex-partner, the doppelganger, I have found my next victims." Shriek throws out a sonic blast to Demogoblin asking, "Did you really think that would do something? Your blasts do nothing more than make noise." He throws a pumpkin bomb with Shriek yelling to the doppelganger to do something. But after having Demogoblin as an actual partner in the past, he's conflicted on who he should help. Carnage then jumps up, grabbing Demogoblin, yelling, "I will deal with this." Demogoblin burns away the tendrils, telling him, "You can feel the pain of hellfire. While you and your foul companions lie in pieces, there will be others to punish. I won't stop until every sinner in this world is but bone and ash." Carnage says, Whoa! You want to kill people? Well, cripes! Why didn't you say so? All you gotta do is join us." Over at Black Cat's apartment, though, Spider-Man says there's gotta be a better solution. Partnering up with Venom, that would mean condoning his ruthless methods. Black Cat steps out of her room, getting the last of her costume on, stating, "Sometimes you have to deal with the devils to save the righteous. You coming?" Spider-Man hesitates, and Black Cat jumps out her window, telling him, "There's an old saying, if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem." So meanwhile, back at Spider-Man's apartment, Venom lifts the sofa that he was sleeping on, stating, "This is good. Our strength has returned." Black Cat jumps in, stating that that's not the only thing gruesome. Venom quickly changes into his costume, asking, "Do you want to play again?" Black Cat shouts at him, "Look, I don't want you. I want what you want. I've come to help put Carnage in a body bag." So Venom asks, "Did you come alone?" And seconds later, Spider-Man swings in, telling him, "No, she didn't. But let me be clear. I will help, but we've got some rules. First, we're here to save lives. Second, if anyone from either side tries to kill someone, I will stomp them. Over with Carnage, he tells his crew, all right, boys and girls, time to get a little gnashing and gutting. A voice then calls out to them, no, not now, not ever. Carnage turns back asking, who? And from the shadows, Cloak steps out asking, surely you haven't forgotten what you have done to Dagger. You killed her, and now I have found you and you're going to pay. Shriek quickly hits him with a sonic blast from behind, and Carnage yells, that's it! Get him while he's down, doppelganger! Doppelganger jumps on Cloak, but Spider-Man, Venom, and Black Cat jump in through the hole in the ceiling, with Venom yelling, Carnage brains, yum! As Spider-Man kicks Demogoblin, he tells himself that he knew that this was a mistake. Black Cat leaps towards Shriek, stating that it looks like the boys are busy. How about the two of them dance? Shriek calls out the Doppelganger, who grabs Black Cat by the leg with the razor webbing. The barbs cut through her boot, so Black Cat slashes at the webbing, stating, thankfully, my claws can do some snipping of their own. As she lands, Shriek then asks, how about that dance? Over with Venom, he shouts to Carnage, your senseless slaughter of innocents is about to end. Carnage yells, get real, Pops! I've almost scrubbed you and the spider before. This time, I ain't alone. Venom punches Carnage into Cloak's void, stating, and neither are we. Spider-Man looks back thinking, wait, Cloak! I forgot about Cloak's rage. He's liable to. But Carnage then thrusts his arm out, grabbing onto the wall, pulling himself out, shouting, fat chance! With this costume, I'm even stronger than any dopey dimension. Spider-Man then scans over and sees Shriek, but before she can attack Black Cat, he webs her up, pulling her away. Once Carnage is free, he then shouts, we have no time! We have better things to do! Demogoblin, flame the roof and Shriek! As Demogoblin works on the roof, Shriek says that she's got it. She then holds her hands together, firing a blast into the weakened ceiling. Spider-Man yells to the others that the place is falling apart, and Cloak is already teleported out. We have to leave. So Venom webs himself out, but the fight has left him weak, and soon he passes out, falling back onto the building. Then Spider-Man hears someone moaning and looks back to see Black Cat trapped under some debris, and he stops to ask himself, what does he do? If he lets Carnage go, hundreds could die. If he leaves Black Cat and Venom, they're gonna die. With no choice, Spider-Man goes back into the burning building, with Venom shouting, what are you doing? You have to go after Carnage! As Spider-Man weighs his options, Venom slowly picks himself up, crawling out of the building just before it explodes. A short while later, Spider-Man walks out asking if he's awake, and Venom then asks, what about Carnage? Did you nail him? Spider-Man sets Black Cat down, stating, of course not. Wasn't gonna leave Black Cat in there to roast. So Venom jumps to his feet, shouting, what? Are you crazy? She doesn't matter. None of us matter. The only thing that's important is protecting the innocent. As Venom gets ready to swing at Spider-Man, Black Cat yells for them to stop. They're wasting time when Carnage and the others are getting away. So then she gets back up, with Spider-Man asking if she's okay to move. Is she really up for this? She pushes him away, stating that she's fine, and frankly, she would have been fine without his help. To think that she is some fragile little lady in distress who needs a hero to save her, she would have been fine. And Venom was right. Her life doesn't mean a thing if it's weighed against the slaughter that could be happening right now. So Spider-Man, fed up, simply tells them, you know what? This little thing is over. I can't work with Venom and play by his bloodthirsty rules. I already came so close to selling out to what I believe in. So Venom webs off, telling him, that's fine. Stay true, web brain. Keep being Mr. Moral. Us, we're gonna go save some lives. You coming, pussycat? Black Cat looks at Spider-Man and then swings away, telling Venom, I'm right behind you. Later at Aunt May's house, Aunt May sets down a plate of cookies, asking Spider-Man what's wrong. He can't fool her and say it's nothing. He sighs, stating that it's personal. It's nothing that he can really get into. If only Uncle Ben was here, he'd know what to say. Spider-Man gets up, telling her, yeah, I used to think that he was figuring things out for himself, but then weeks later, I would realize it was all Ben's doing. He was such a great guy. He was like a father and best friend all rolled into one. He never steered me wrong either. Things are getting hard. Almost like a man can't tell what's right and wrong anymore. Aunt May tells him that she doesn't believe that, not even for a second. We know what's right. Listen to your heart, Peter. That's what Uncle Ben did. He never took the easy way out. He did what was right. And whatever the problem is, you will figure it out. Spider-Man grabs his jacket, getting ready to leave, when his father, Richard, stops him, asking if he can have a moment. It's just he overheard what May was telling him, and Uncle Ben was wrong. Yes, he had good intentions, seeing the best in everyone, but that's not how things work. He too lived that way once, before he was locked away in a Soviet prison for nearly 20 years. Ben and May were wrong to fill his head with all these fairy tales about goodness and decency of the human heart. Sure, there are a few good men out there, and Ben was one of them. But look where that got him. Shot down like a dog. When it comes to dealing with the devils, there's no other way. It will try to consume you if you let them. You have to fight fire with fire. Use whatever means to stop the madness before it swallows you up. As the memories flood back, Richard leans against the wall sitting down, and Spider-Man tells him that he has to go. He rushes back into the city, going over what his father told him. He made some good points, but he can't give up everything that he's done and everything that he stands for. The average person he's dedicated his life to protecting, the Aunt Mays and the Uncle Bens of the world, they've never let him down? As Spider-Man swings over, he sees a riot breaking out, and he swings down to save a man from getting beat. He knocks the rioter out, asking the man what's going on. And the man says the whole city's going crazy. Since that nut Carnage is loose, it's like every bloodthirsty person in New York is coming crawling out. You can't stop them, nobody can. Spider-Man looks back as the mob surrounds him, and they begin to swing their clubs and bats pinning him down. He begins to fight his way out, throwing the people off of him, shouting, "Stop! Okay, you want to act like devils? Then I'm gonna treat you like devils. I'm tired of holding back, of being cautious, trying so hard to draw a moral line that no one even sees anymore. From here on out, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to keep the city from going down in flames. From this moment on, you'll get no mercy from Spider-Man." But meanwhile, in the streets of New York, Morbius the living vampire takes out a group of thugs robbing a poor defenseless woman. However, he isn't doing it out of the kindness of his heart. He's doing it to feed. Just as Morbius bites down onto one of the thugs, he hears clapping in the distance, and he shouts, asking, "Who dares interrupt?" Venom swings down, stating, "We're in need of someone with your kind of skills." But Black Cat here is still trying to cling to what's left of her precious morality. Morbius tells him that his bloodthirst is sated, if only for the moment. So Venom tells him, "That's good, because we're hunting down the juiciest of morsels at this mushrooming madness at its source." Black Cat steps in, telling them both, Carnage has to be stopped, but nobody has to die. Later, at the grand opening of New York's hottest new club, The Deep, Carnage and his friends decide to make a splash. Carnage begins slaughtering everyone there, stating, "This is it, folks! We are trend-setting here!" And just as the party really starts to start up, Cloak teleports in with Black Cat, and she comes crashing down on the doppelganger. Carnage then laughs, stating, "I really do like your style, but last time I checked, we have the numbers." Just then, Venom and Morbius burst in through the wall with Venom yelling, "Knock, knock! Come to Papa, Carnage!" Shriek jumps up, stating, "Looks like the gang is all here, except for your spider pet." And Venom yells that Morbius is here, ready, willing, and more than able to fill in for the cowardly Spider-Man's boots. So Venom whips Carnage away, stating that he had the wrong choice of potential victims as he notices someone in the club, Mary Jane. Venom leans down, licking Mary Jane's face, stating, "This one's a keeper. Just don't bother thanking us, Mrs. Parker. Just tell Petey that we're even with him for rescuing his ex-wife." Suddenly, there are flashes of lights as the news crew begin to pour in, trying to get coverage. Carnage grabs the cameraman, telling him to make sure to get his good side, and Morbius leaps into the air, telling Carnage that his reign of terror ends here and now. With Morbius dealing with Demogoblin, and Black Cat on Shriek, and Cloak on Doppelganger, that leaves Carnage and Venom to duke it out. But as Spider-Man breaks into the wall, he says the odds just increased for the underdogs and everything's busted wide open. Venom asks Spider-Man, "Did you finally find your courage?" And Spider-Man tells him, "It's more like I found a reason to sink to your level, and I don't have to like it." Carnage turns and lunges at Spider-Man, telling him, "That's perfect! A change of heart! And speaking of, you're gonna make an excellent appetizer!" Spider-Man jumps up, dodging Carnage's attack, and as he comes back down, he joins in with Black Cat, asking, "May I?" And Black Cat tells him, "Anytime, Spider Stud." Carnage begins lashing out, shouting, "You pathetic, arrogant fools! It will be your very downfall!" But as Cloak is struggling with Shriek, Shriek says that they really are just as crazy as them, and she's really getting to like that. Carnage then yells to Demogoblin to bring the house down. They have other places to be. But just before Spider-Man can follow, he sees Mary Jane swinging down, asking, "What are you doing here, MJ?" The explosion goes off with Spider-Man quickly scooping her up and jumping out of the way of the falling debris. Venom calls out to everyone to push through the rubble and head straight for the wackos. But Spider-Man stops him, telling him, "No, there are more innocent bystanders who are trapped, and you owe me for the save." Venom grumbles, "Fine, let's hurry and get the rest of the people out of here before they realize what we're doing." Morbius and Venom finish up with the aid, and they swing out, stating that he can come with them so long as he can keep up. But as everyone leaves, Spider-Man tells himself that this is what it's finally come down to. Even scum like Venom can't even trust him. And if he's on Venom's side for this, he better start acting like it. So Venom, Black Cat, and Spider-Man all meet up at the orphanage where Cletus grew up, looking for clues to discuss future plans. Venom says that Carnage has apparently mutated, but he began as a spawn of the Venom symbiote's suit, and he may still possess some of the same vulnerabilities. They always found that Reed Richards' sonic gun was rather unpleasant. Black Cat says that if that's the case, maybe they could recruit the Human Torch. Fire hurts symbiotes, right? And Spider-Man tells her, that's a good idea, but bad timing. The Fantastic Four are out of town and so are the Avengers, but Firestorm might be a good substitute. Cloak says that he'll go. With his teleporting abilities, he can search for her much quicker than any of them. So he disappears, and just as he finishes, Spider-Man says that the way that he does that makes web slinging seem like taking a crosstown turtle. But wait a second. Now that he has a second to think about it, doesn't Cloak need Dagger to help him teleport? Except that she's dead. Carnage and his cronies killed her. As Morbius splits off to do his own investigating, Spider-Man, Venom, and Black Cat take to the streets to look for clues. Meanwhile, over at New York's Met Museum, screams can be heard as Carnage and company tear through the security team keeping watch. Carnage watches Shriek and Doppelganger and says, "It seems like we're all having a grand old time smashing stuff. Looks like the party is just getting started." Just then the officers storm the building, telling them that that's where they're wrong. The NYPD's extreme emergency team have weapons specifically to handle crud like them. As the officer aims his gun, a hand reaches out grabbing him, and that's when the officer begins to wither away. Carnage yells, "Holy smokes! I've only heard of that guy! That's Carrion! He decays people by touching them! Used to be my hero, but right now, I'm looking at a perfect partner." But it's not just the newspapers that are spreading the world of Carnage's carnival. Deathlock watches over in cyberspace and sees things in real time as they're happening. Right now, he needs to scan for the source, and then he takes the steps to eliminate it. Back out in the streets, our unlikely team of heroes begin to set out on patrol when Spider-Man notices a carjacking taking place. He says he doesn't have time for small-time crimes. He's got more important, but he jumps down shouting to himself, "What am I thinking? I can't pick and choose who deserves to be saved." After knocking out the robbers, Spider-Man's Spidey sense goes off, and the owner of the car swings at him, telling him, "I won't let you take my car either." Spider-Man dodges, asking, "Is everyone in this town going nuts?" One of the robbers then gets back up, stating, "Thanks, Pops. Now I can squeeze off a couple of..." But before the robber could fire his gun, Black Cat jumps in, kicking him, telling Spider-Man, "You're getting careless. How many people has Carnage butchered in the time it took you to play traffic cop?" Venom laughs. "Sounds like the pussycat is getting sassy. Come on, we've got work to do, Webbs." As the three swing off, Spider-Man thinks to himself that there's gotta be more to this than just mob mentality. But what could it be? Meanwhile, over in Manhattan, Carnage sets loose his team of supervillains to terrorize the next unsuspecting group of people. He bursts out laughing, stating, "Doesn't get any better than this! Guts and glory, and the freedom to do whatever the heck we want, just because we can." As Carnage begins to move to his next target, he's blasted and Deathlock charges in, stating, "Took me a bit, but I was able to locate the source of the horrors being committed." Demogoblin calls to Carrion to handle it, but as Carrion grabs onto Deathlock's metal body, he smiles. With nothing to decay, he punches Carrion off just as Demogoblin begins to throw pumpkin bombs. Deathlock rolls out of the way, shooting at Demogoblin's glider, causing him to crash into the ground. A sonic blast then shoots by, with Deathlock asking, "What the heck was that?" The doppelganger swings in, but before it can attack, Deathlock kicks him away. Shriek fires off another sonic blast, shouting that she will kill him for hurting Doppelganger. The blast hits Deathlock, throwing him into a neon sign that's behind him and electrocuting him. As he gets tangled in the wiring of the sign, Carnage jumps up asking, "And what do we have here? Gather around, kiddies, we're gonna have some real fun." But meanwhile, with no other choice, Spider-Man, Venom, and Black Cat head over to the Four Freedoms Plaza to acquire something that Mr. Fantastic has been working on personally: a sonic blaster. Venom rips open the door, grabbing the gun before anyone else can. He tells them that he'd like to hang on to it since it can only hurt them. Shortly after that, the three of them meet up at the rendezvous. Spider-Man says that all they have to do now is wait for Cloak. But Cloak appears, stating, "You're going to have to wait no longer." As his cloak opens, Firestorm steps out, stating that Cloak gave her the rundown of what's going on, and she would like to help in any way that she can. But against Carnage, Shriek, and the rest, do they even stand a chance? Spider-Man picks up the sonic blaster, telling them, "We do now!" A short while later, over at the Daily Bugle, Ben Urich tells Jonah that it's crazy out there. Downtown looting, uptown rioting, wilding in the Central Park. The entire city's under siege. Jonah steps into his office telling him, "Yeah, from itself. We got reporters out there that are covering the whole mess, Ulrich, and all you gotta do is print the ugly truth. But as Jonah says that, Spider-Man webs up his hands telling him, hey, we need a little help. So Jonah says, you're just proving that Spider-Man is really a menace, keeping company with a ruthless killer and a glorified burglar? Well, whatever you want, you're gonna find it elsewhere. I got a newspaper to publish and... But Black Cat stops him, stating, that's why we're here. We need you to help set a trap. So Jonah shouts, this is too many times that I've been invaded by superpowered freaks! The answer is no. He then looks up at Venom, who's licking his lips, and he says, unless, of course, it would be in everyone's best interest for me to comply in this completely different situation. Later, back at the Brooklyn orphanage, Carnage lands on the building, stating, home sweet home, fellow outcasts! He jumps in the hole of the roof, and Shriek asks if there's going to be anyone for them to kill. But Carnage says that the only thing that they're killing right now is time. Gather round, boy toys and ghouls. It's time to take a trip down memory lane, so that you might understand what Carnage is truly all about. After killing my dad for killing my mom for trying to kill me, or was it the other way around? Anyway, glowing up little Cletus was almost 8 years old and already the bully's target in the cafeteria. Carnage then punches a hole into the next room, stating, this room! No one could forget this room! Brooklyn Orphanage was way ahead of its time when it came to the concept of tough love! Just then a web net is shot and Spider-Man swings in, stating, everyone secretly loves a sad story, Carnage, but this one's leading to a real tragic ending. Seconds later, the entire building explodes, knocking Carnage and the others out of the building. And Venom says, looks like first blood is ours for the taking! As the brawl breaks out, Carnage grabs a hold of Spider-Man, telling him, seems like the spider got caught in his own tangled web. Spider-Man struggles, telling him, I still got an ace up my sleeve. Just then, Firestorm flies in, hitting Carnage with a fire blast. She says that his mutated suit is obviously vulnerable to her microwave heat. Carnage then jumps up, telling her, you're just another pest that's going to die! As he jumps up, Venom hits him with a sonic blaster from the blaster, stating, actually, they lied. We have 2 aces. Carnage laughs. That's it! Hit me with everything you've got! He slowly walks towards the fire blast, with Firestorm flying by adding microwave blasts, and Carnage stops. The symbiote melts away with Cletus asking, what's going on? Morbius then joins the fight, telling him, it's time to level the playing field. But while Carnage's forces are busy, Venom picks Cletus up, stating that without this clown's cowardly second-rate symbiote, Big Bad Killer Cassidy is just another scoop of face meat. Cletus begs him, please don't! But before Venom could bite off his head, Spider-Man webs up his shoulder, pulling him back, telling him, there has to be limits! Venom tells him, we've already reached those limits. And Shriek scratches Cletus' face, telling him, remember, no limits, no weaknesses. As the blood drips out, the symbiote begins to take back over, stating, you're right! Now that the alien symbiote has permanently altered my very bloodstream, Carnage never dies! You had your chance and you blew it! Nothing can stop me! You can kill it, but baby, you ain't gonna die! As the combined forces of Carnage and the others rain down, Spider-Man quickly throws up a web shield, asking, what are we gonna do now? Venom tears through the shield, shouting, we ain't gonna hide like some scared bunny rabbit. We're moving in for the kill. Venom, Morbius, and Cloak all rush in, with Firestorm asking Spider-Man, what are we supposed to do now? Spider-Man tells her that in this case, the end justifies the means. Firestorm begins to state that she can't. Nothing justifies these methods. Black Cat jumps down, telling her that she isn't thrilled about it either. But Carnage and his crew are already turning the city on its head. While they're trying to figure out what to do, others are putting their lives on the line. Be sure to do a body count when you're done. As Black Cat joins the fight, Spider-Man and Firestorm look at each other, and they follow. Shriek looks over at the mob and says, oh, would you look at that? Ever since I've had my run-in with Cloak, I've been able to take those little bed bugs in my head and transmit them to anybody who's close to me. Normally it just shakes them up a bit, but since hanging with Carnage and soaking up his vibes, I've really been able to pump up the volume. Let's go, everyone. Time to be just like the bad guys in comics. Morbius grabs one of the mob people, stating that if they chose to side with Carnage and his vile breed, then you must share his fate. But before Morbius could bite into the man, Black Cat knocks him away, asking, what do you think you're doing? The man gets away with Morbius yelling, your compassion will be the death of you. Black Cat thinks to herself that maybe Spider-Man was right. Morbius is as much of an inhuman monster as, but before she could finish that thought, she's bashed in the back of the head by a crazed civilian. Morbius turns back to help, but then Demo Goblin throws more pumpkin bombs, hitting him, stating, you should heed your own words. Carnage looks at some of the civilians, stating, oh, look at this! Think it's about time to cut to their livers. Spider-Man swings in punching, telling him, I didn't think this nightmare could get any worse, but it just did. Carnage fires off a spike, asking, what are you gonna do about it? But as he finishes stating that, Firestorm hits him with a microwave blast, shouting, get back! Carnage runs away, with Firestorm stating, would you look at that? It worked! Venom lands, telling her, that's right. You scared him after death. Now all you gotta do is hit him with that blast and don't let up. Cook him until he's a red smear. Firestorm yells, no way, I will not use my power to take another human's life. But Spider-Man says, there has to be another way. Venom shouts, there is another way! Look around! The blood of innocents is everywhere. The only way to end this is with Carnage's death. Firestorm looks at Spider-Man for support, but he soon tells her, Venom's right, we have no choice. Heaven help us, there is no other way. Firestorm flies up into the air, chasing after Carnage and hits him with her blast. Is this what she's supposed to do? Is she really going to kill Carnage? He screams for her to stop, but Venom shouts, keep going! Kill him! Firestorm tries to shut out Carnage's pleas, but soon she hears somebody else. Spider-Man. He yells, I was wrong! You've got to stop! In the name of God, stop! The microwave blast stops and Shriek runs to Carnage's aid. Firestorm floats to the ground, telling herself that she stopped just in time. But Venom grabs her by the hair, shouting, betrayer of innocence! What did you do? Right now, you don't have just Carnage out for your blood. You've got us! Spider-Man tackles into Venom from behind, and Venom turns back, telling him, you're too soft, too weak, never be like us. He swings his massive arm, knocking Spider-Man across the park, and when he looks back, he sees Carnage walking towards him with Shriek's help. Carnage says that he's going to let the wife take first crack at him. A little humiliation before you get finished off. Venom yells back that the only humiliation that he's seen was him begging and crying like the bedwetting infant he really is. Shriek focuses her sonic blast on Venom, but Venom pushes through them, telling her, it'll take more than that to stop me. But as Venom reaches out, he realizes his symbiote suit is gone. And as Eddie looks up, both Carnage and Shriek punch him over and over again. Carnage stops Shriek and she asks, what are you doing? And Carnage tells her, we can't kill him yet. We gotta keep peppering Daddy here with those sound waves and you'll see why. But for now, let's take the sonic gun that Venom dropped and make this a family reunion they'll never forget. With Carnage escaping with Venom's body, Spider-Man is left to wonder, did they just lose? Was all of this for nothing? No, there's gotta be a better way. There's gotta be something out there to help them defeat Carnage. And just then, a voice calls out asking, how about a hand, son? Spider-Man looks up, and Captain America holds out his hand. By the looks of it, you could use it. While Carnage's carnival of chaos terrorizes the streets of New York with Venom in tow, Spider-Man and Firestar go with Captain America to the Avengers headquarters. Firestar watches, stating that the whole island is exploding with violence. What are they going to do? Cap looks closely at the wreckage and says that there's no pattern to their madness. We're going to need to work on a positive approach to this. And just then, the monitor phases out and an image of Deathlock appears. Cap grits his teeth, stating, looks like someone is trying to access our classified files. Spider-Man hops on the keyboard and isolates Deathlock's access. He then looks further into it and backtraces the connection. The second monitor shows Iron Fist. Cap asks, what exactly are you trying to do here? And Deathlock says, we're trying to find anything on the butchers that tore through the city. Iron Fist then says, we lost track of them when we went to repair Deathlock's body, and we wanted to avoid any further delays. Cap sighs, I don't condone your rogue methods, but your determination and resources could prove helpful under the circumstances. Spider-Man webs out the window, stating, that sounds good. We'll rendezvous in 5. But right now, I gotta go check in at home and make sure everything's okay. But while Black Cat, Morbius, and Cloak attempt to handle Carrion, Demogoblin, and Doppelganger over at the Statue of Liberty, Venom finds himself in hot water. He's hanging chained over a burning fire, with Carnage saying that it would seem that our guest is uncomfortable. Shriek! Venom struggles to try and free himself, but Shriek says that maybe they should bring him down a notch. He's probably catching a cold without his bodysuit. She can amplify Venom's agony right back at him, and the sound burst will tear his alien parasite to shreds. Carnage tells her, not so fast! This blood belongs to me! Meanwhile, over in Soho, Mary Jane puts out another cigarette, worrying about what kind of news she's going to get, when suddenly a hand reaches out for her. She screams, seeing Spider-Man, and shouts, asking how could he do that to her? How could he keep doing this over and over? How can he keep doing this to himself over and over? Spider-Man says that he just wanted to stop by and tell her that he loves her. and how much he needs her. Mary Jane tells him that it's not that simple anymore. She can't continue to condone his constant exposure to danger but that's when the radio goes off and the host reports how the riots have gotten worse and there's currently a hostage situation going on. Back on the streets, the charge against the villains turns into a desperate struggle as the heroes are slowly beginning to lose their strength. Black Cat gives it her all to kick Doppelganger, but with her focus turned away, Carrion reaches out and grabs Morbius. Morbius screams as his power is being sapped, and Cloak says, "The vampire is hurt, but he will survive." Black Cat calls out to him, telling him, "Get him out of here while I keep the bloodhounds at bay." As she leaps into the air, Doppelganger strikes her from behind, with Demogoblin following up with a hit from the front. Nightwatch looks down, stating despite the potential dangers of his cursed costume, he can't stand by and allow a woman to be brutally beaten to death. He swoops in, grabbing the unconscious Black Cat, removing her from the fight, leaving Morbius and Cloak to fend for themselves. Morbius lunges at Demogoblin, shouting Black Cat's sacrifice will not be in vain. Nightwatch then comes back, telling him that the feline female will live, but her allies are outnumbered, so Nightwatch changes all the odds. Meanwhile, over at the overrun police station, the officers position themselves outside, shouting to the inmates that they need to give up. But on the inside, one of the inmates hears a noise, and when they go to check on it, Spider-Man's hanging upside down, telling them, "Hello, I heard some people needed a wall of webbing." The inmates open fire, but Spider-Man jumps, avoiding the bullets and hitting several of the inmates at once. All of the inmates then surround Spider-Man, and they begin to knock him back, and he quickly webs them all up, telling them, "Well, that's just plain rude. At least the good guys won this battle, but the bad guys are winning the war." And what Spider-Man is thinking can't be any more true, because with the help of Nightwatch, the heroes are losing the battle. Each hero is struggling with their villain, with Morbius stating that they must change their strategy to suit their strengths. Cloak then shifts to Carrion while Nightwatch handles Demogoblin, and Morbius focuses on Doppelganger, with the villains quickly seeing that they are now no match for their new opponents. Nightwatch says that it appears that they are fleeing, but Morbius chases after them, shouting, "My vengeance must be sated!" Nightwatch follows behind Morbius, but Cloak stays behind to help Black Cat recover. Black Cat gets up, telling them that it's obvious that they're outgunned from the very beginning, and she's done playing punching bag. She's gonna go home and lick these wounds and seriously rethink her career options. But back at the Avengers headquarters, Deathlock and Iron Fist arrive, and Cap reminds them that revenge is not our motivation here. Our first priority is to the victims of this mushrooming chaos. Iron Fist tells him that is the common bond that draws us all together. Spider-Man then swings down, stating, "Now that we all have something we can agree on, let's go out and tame a wild city." As the team moves out, Iron Fist looks out, saying that this city is gripped in madness, and the only way to stop it is to locate the source. But after a short while, Firestar flies up ahead, telling them that she's pretty sure she just found the source of the insanity. Over on a nearby building, Shriek influences the unruly mob, and everyone hones their attacks on her. Firestar then tells everyone to remember, "We're here to incapacitate." Shriek says that she's impressed with the big words. Not! As she turns her attention to Firestar, Deathlock and Iron Fist jump down from a glider, surprising Shriek. She spins, firing her blast upward, telling the two of them to just back off. She then whips another blast at Spider-Man, saying that he can back off too, bug guy! You're gonna have to be sneakier than that. And just then, a whirling sound can be heard, and a loud fa-ping as Captain America's shield knocks her in the back. Firestar yells "good one," and Cap tells her, "You can thank teamwork for this one. We're just lucky that she was alone." Spider-Man pauses for a moment and says that brings up a burning question. Where the heck is Carnage? Back at Lady Liberty, Carnage sits atop Venom, telling him that this is the best seat in the house. "Ha! We can see every wild and wacky antic of the Carnage kids from up here. But man, I really wish that there was some popcorn." Nightwatch punches Demogoblin away, and that's when he feels the presence of Carrion coming his way. He lashes up from behind while Doppelganger grabs Morbius and gets ready to throw him at the statue. Nightwatch then quickly grabs a hold of Demogoblin and throws him into Doppelganger, causing him to release Morbius. With Morbius knocked out, Nightwatch grabs a hold of him, telling him, "We both need to leave if we're going to survive." And Carnage shouts, "What a bunch of whips! Next time I'll do it myself!" Demogoblin says that perhaps if he did join, but Carnage cuts him off, shouting, "Shut up! Why don't you boys go find Mama and let Papa get back to work?" Over in Manhattan, the riots are continuing to break out. Just as a man gets ready to break a window, he sees the reflection of Captain America behind him, and he drops the brick, telling Cap, I'm sorry." Across the street, a group of thugs corner a woman, telling her that she is just their type to party with. The woman yells that she'd like to see them try, and that's when a light shines down on them. Firestar tells them that they need to stop and see what they've become. The men pause and state that she's right. What are we doing? Can you ever forgive us? The woman tells them yes, she can. As everyone helps restore the citizens' sanity, Spider-Man spots a woman holding her child over a ledge. She screams that these lousy rugrats take every minute that she has, and all they've given her is dirty diapers and stretch marks. Spider-Man climbs up yelling at her to wait, so she turns back and says, "I don't care who!" Spider-Man? One of the children yells, "Spider-Man!" And the woman begins to cry, saying Bobby loves to play him all the time. He's so cute, crawling up the chairs, using yarn for webbing. My God, what did I almost do? Thank you, Spider-Man. Spider-Man thinks to himself that this is why he does what he does. Mary Jane was wrong. This is worth putting his life in risk for. Saving people is his job. Down on the street, Shriek struggles to free herself from Spider-Man's webbing when Demogoblin and Doppelganger appear to rescue her. She yells, "I'm free!" And Cap calls out, "Not for long, you won't be." She tells him that she thinks the time for talking is way over. And the villains quickly begin to get the upper hand again, but as Shriek is watching, a bottle is thrown at her. The citizens all shout, asking, how could she bring out the worst in them like that? Spider-Man and the others have showed us the truth. We're good people. You tricked us. As the mob surrounds Shriek, she says that this won't do at all. They think that they're dealing with some freaked out bimbo? They're all dead wrong. I have been psychically transmitting rage and hatred, bringing out the baser instincts in people. Some might say it comes naturally. They didn't even have to think about it. But when I make a conscious effort to touch people's minds, you better believe I can crank it up big time. She jumps into the air, projecting her influence back into the people with a blinding light, and yells, "It's party time, boys and girls!" And you all know what that means. The mob quickly turns their attention back to Spider-Man and the others, shouting, "Yes, we have to kill them all." But meanwhile, back at the Statue of Liberty, Venom continues to hang over the fire, and he begs Carnage not to hurt anyone anymore. Carnage tells him, "Boy, Pop sure is pathetic. I can keep this up for days, weeks, torture him until he's even more of a whimpering wreck than he already is." He slices through Venom's stomach, telling him, "But I got a better idea. How about we use this sonic blaster on you like you did me?" Venom yells, "Please, not that!" But Carnage cackles as he pulls the trigger. But instead of blasting the symbiote away, it starts to spray more onto him. Carnage asks, "What is this?" And Venom breaks his chain, telling him, "Venom is free!" "That's what's going on, Carnage. While you were distracted with our performance, we sent a piece of ourselves into that gun and sabotaged it." He leaps over, cracking Carnage in the face, and he escapes, telling him, "We need to recover strength before we can continue fighting. But once we have, as our dear father used to say, son, I brought you into this world, and I can take you out." Carnage screams, "Now! I was winning! I was winning!" Meanwhile, over in the streets, Shriek watches the riot spread, and then says that when she was a little girl, she was always tormented and abused by the people that she trusted most. She was never allowed to be upset. She just smiled and tried to be good so that they'd love her, so that they'd stop hurting her. But it never stopped. Now the heroes will get a taste of that. Why weren't the heroes there to save her, huh? All she needs to do now is just give them one little push. Shriek then jumps off of Doppelganger, saying that they need to find themselves a safer perch. And yes, afterwards, we're gonna kill some more of them. But we have to wait until Daddy gets home because we are family after all. Firestar tries to keep the mob contained, telling herself that she has to believe in Spider-Man. She can't swoop to the villain's levels. What Spider-Man said is true. There's got to be another way. And as the crowd surround Iron Fist, he steps back and begins to meditate. He quietly stands there looking at the people, and soon the people stop. And just then, someone from behind begins to shout, "Get him!" The man lunges at Iron Fist, but as he pushes him back, he yells, "They just keep coming! There's only so much of this sickness a man can take. I've had it. I've had it with all of you!" But before Iron Fist could swing, Spider-Man swings down, grabbing him, telling him, "We all have. But taking these people apart isn't gonna help anyone. They're getting a chance to breathe." Iron Fist tells him that he's right. He almost lost control there. And Spider-Man tells him, "It's okay. We're all feeling Shriek's psychotic vibes. But that was a nice attempt. How'd you manage to stop those people?" Iron Fist says that it was a meditation technique that he learned while in Kunlun. One reaches down into the calm center of the soul, and you not only affect yourself. Spider-Man asks if there's any way that he could teach him that, and Iron Fist tells him sure, but it's just gonna take you about 8 to 10 years of training. As Iron Fist leaves, Spider-Man punches the wall, calling out hopelessness. What my father said was right. Fight fire with fire. Elsewhere, Cloak is finding the opposite to be true, as he's been lost in the darkness of his own for so long. But the truth is, he was never alone. It's also at that time that Spider-Man realizes something himself. His dad isn't right. Across the way, Shriek looks down, saying it's time to go. These heroes haven't got a chance. And it's just then that Carnage wraps his tendrils around her throat, telling her, "Not so fast! Hubby is home, and I'm not very happy! How dare you go on a murdering spree without my permission! No wife of mine will have her own career! I ought to kill you here and now!" Suddenly, Carnage feels a razor webbing around his neck, and Doppelganger pulls him off, screaming. Carnage looks back, asking, "Oh, is this how it's gonna be? My little boy is revolting! Well, if that's what you want, who is father to argue?" He pierces through Doppelganger with his fingers, with Shriek shouting to let him go. But while Carnage beats on Doppelganger, Spider-Man calls out, "Hang on, I want to join the party." However, the mob was safely evacuated. Hope you guys aren't mad. Carnage then tells Shriek that their marital squabbles will have to wait for now. "How about we eviscerate these yo-yos, then fly the family to Disney World?" Just as the two sides are about to clash, a voice calls out that their darkness will not spread beyond this point, for their time has come to face the light. Everyone turns to see Cloak, but they're shocked to see Dagger running towards them. Everyone stares into Dagger's light, and they all stop dead in their tracks, awestruck, overwhelmed by a sight that they can only call miraculous. Shriek yells, "No, it can't be you, I killed you!" And Spider-Man tells her, "Please don't take this the wrong way or anything. I'm really happy to see you, Dagger, but Shriek's right. She killed you. What are you doing here?" Dagger tells everyone that Shriek's attack somehow caused her light powers to feed back, consume her, and transform her. She literally became the light. The energy was too much for her to contain, and she exploded, and her very essence unraveled. Another few seconds and she would have been dead. Less than dead, scattered forever into the winds. But she managed to find refuge within Cloak. She drew her fragmented consciousness into his cape. It was only with her deep connection to Cloak, the love that binds them, that kept her sane and gave her the strength to hang on. Shriek screams, "No, no, no, no! I was there! It was horrible! Nothing could have saved you!" And Carrion reaches out. "Mother, please, don't upset yourself like this." Shriek shakes his hand off and blasts him away, shouting, "I am not your mother! As for Dagger, I killed you once and I'll do it again." As the Carnage family begins to get up to try to help, Carnage tells them, "Take it easy. Mommy Dearest has been acting like she can do just fine without her hubby. How about we sit back and see if she's the woman she thinks she is?" Dagger begins to emit light, telling Shriek that she knows the feeling. Her life was nothing but struggle, loveless, lonely, full of abuse, so horrible that she can hardly remember it. So she cocooned herself in blind darkness, and she's been living it so long that she thought she was darkness. Shriek yells, "No one will ever hurt her again. She will hurt them first. Do you hear that?" But Dagger kneels down, wrapping Shriek in the light, telling her, "Yes, but now it is time for you to hear me." Moments pass and the light begins to fade, with Shriek asking, "I'm forgiven? After everything I've done?" And Dagger tells her that the light can heal. The light can bring her out of darkness, but it can't be done alone. She has to want it. Shriek begins to cry, but her despair quickly turns to anger and she blasts Dagger away. Spider-Man jumps up to catch her, and as they come down, he tells her that he just wanted her to know, "You're my hero." Dagger says that she failed, and Spider-Man sets her down, telling her, "No, you didn't. You proved we can win this, Dagger." And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Carnage picks up Shriek, asking, "How are you feeling? I was getting a little worried there, as if you were going to switch sides." Shriek shakes her head, telling him no. She won't be fooled by her. She's been lied to one too many times. Carnage spins back, shouting, "There it is! We are one happy, dysfunctional family again, which means that we can go massacre." What? Carnage looks at the empty street, asking, "Did they run?" But then Spider-Man calls out, "No, not everyone. Everyone else may have thought that you were too much to handle, but Spider-Man's no quitter. Maybe this is the way it should be. Me alone against the four of you. After all, I'm the one who stopped you before, and I'm the one who's gonna do it again." Spider-Man jumps in swinging, but only after getting in a few hits, the odds quickly turn against him. Carnage turns his arm into a giant spike and he stabs it into the side of Spider-Man as he's trying to get away. In that moment, the others begin their attacks. Spider-Man falls to his knees, thinking about everyone back at home. He maintains his focus as Shriek tries to fill his head with rage, and just as Spider-Man grounds himself, Shriek is hit from behind by a large blast. Spider-Man struggles to get back up, telling them, Sure took you guys long enough. If anyone replied, it was lost in the wine of the extraordinary device attached to deathlock circuitry. The scientist at the nearby Rand Corporation, where it was created, called it the Alpha Magni Illuminizer. Spider-Man, though, being the one who sent everyone away, would like it to be known as the Good Bomb. Deathlock bathes the villains in a glow of the laser. This was only possible after seeing the strength Iron Fist showed with the violent crowd and the compassion that Dagger showed talking to Shriek. The device is so strong that even Carrion was cured of the Carrion virus, reverting him back to Malcolm McBride. Demo Goblin tries to flee, but a web shot to the back quickly thwarts that. Carnage shouts to them to stop, but Shriek tells him that it won't hurt if he just stops struggling against it. Can't he feel it? This device is our chance to be saved, our salvation. She reaches out, taking Carnage's hand, and together they can find. But before he does, there's a loud fracathoom! And as that smoke clears, everyone checks on the villains. They all seem to have lived, except Carnage. Spider-Man says that this wasn't supposed to happen. The whole point was to save him, and instead we killed him. Cap tells him, no, Carnage's resistance is what killed him. Just as you were willing to die for your ideals, Carnage in his own way was willing to do the same. So, Spider-Man heads to Central Park to watch the sunset and process everything that just happened. It would seem that his father is right, that people like Uncle Ben and Aunt May were right to have faith in people. But with this over, it's time to get his webbed butt back into gear. But before Spider-Man can even finish his thought, Venom shouts, Carnage belonged to us! We wanted to rip his heart out! You cheated us! Venom tries to lunge forward at Spider-Man, but still recovering from his wounds before he stumbles. He then yells, we didn't need help! All we wanted was Carnage, but you stole him! And just then, something begins to rise out of the water, and a voice calls out, oh, isn't that sweet? You miss me! Well, don't cry, Daddy dearest, because your sonny boy is alive! Spider-Man quickly jumps out of the way as the two charge at each other. And Spider-Man thinks to himself, did Carnage fake his death? The only way that he could have done that would have been to cover one of his victims in a mock symbiote suit. Carnage tackles into Venom, and as he tries to tear Venom's head off, Venom rips the symbiote from Carnage's face. He kicks him off, telling him, we're gonna strip every layer of your skin off until we find the twisted twig that you call a backbone. Carnage jumps to his feet, leaping away with Venom shouting, where are you going? Spider-Man jumps in trying to stop Venom, but Venom swings back, hitting Spider-Man's shattered ribs, telling him, we have had enough of you! No innocent life is safe while Cassidy breathes. A short while later, over at Rikers Island prison complex, a man sitting in his cell smokes a cigarette, when suddenly Carnage bursts in asking, what are you doing in my cell? This is where it all began. If only I had a shiv to stick into Eddie Brock when I had a chance, none of this would be happening. Venom swings it, kicking him, telling him, but you didn't. As Carnage is knocked back, he fires off spines at a security guard, and Venom quickly jumps in to take the hit. The guard pauses for a moment, and then realizes, wait, you're Venom. Aren't you supposed to be bad? Venom pops the spines out, telling him, we're the victim of outrageous lies and vicious gossip. After escaping the prison, Carnage returns to the St. Estes home for the boys to find a safe haven. But there too, he is haunted by the ghosts of the bullies that he killed. The ghosts laugh, telling him that he's an embarrassment, that they were embarrassed to be murdered by someone who's a gutless crybaby. Another ghost says, yeah, straighten up, jerk. Thought you enjoyed the killing game. Who's got you sweating bullets? What's his name? And Carnage quietly says, Venom. And the ghost tells him, say it louder. So Carnage repeats himself, Venom! And Venom bursts in, telling him, I'm at your service. Mashed brains and scrambled face are our specialty. Carnage tries to fight back against Venom, but he overpowers him with each and every hit. And as he looms over Carnage's body, he asks, how do you want to die? Rip out your lungs or just twist your head loose? But before he could do anything, Spider-Man swings in, kicking Venom from behind, telling him, how about we leave that up to the authorities, Eddie? Venom lashes back at him. You do not interfere! Carnage must die! Nothing else matters! Spider-Man tells him, I understand, but there's a different way. We can... Uh-oh. Venom looks back and shouts, Carnage is gone! It'll be on your hands if Carnage spills more blood. Later, over at the cemetery, Carnage looks over the graves, asking, where is she? Where is your old mom? And as he starts to shovel, Spider-Man jumped down with Venom, stating, way to go, sicko! Your mind is so fried you're digging up your old greatest hits! Carnage throws his arms out to swing, and as he pulls back, he grabs Venom by the face. So Spider-Man quickly webs up his eyes in hopes of releasing Venom, but just as Carnage's grip loosens, Venom punches him off. Venom tells him,
Thanks, Spider-Man, but your part's over. Go get some coffee or something. This is gonna be short, sweet, and oh so painful.
Spider-Man shouts, don't do it! Even Cassidy deserves better than being murdered. You cannot sink to his level.
We most certainly can, and we will love every second of it.
Venom hits Carnage again, but as his body falls short of the generators, Venom laughs, telling him,
We also did it.
He begins to choke Carnage, but Spider-Man jumps between them, shouting, just back off! Too many people have died already! One more won't solve anything! Carnage turns his arm into a giant blade, and he charges at Spider-Man.
This is it, Spider! Can't let Venom take me without taking you for the road!
But just before the blade could stab Spider-Man, Black Cat kicks Carnage away, telling him the only one hitting the road is a certain crimson-clad maniac. Spider-Man gets back up, telling her that he didn't expect to see her, and Black Cat says that she's supposed to have 9 lives, right? Figured I got a few to spare. Carnage runs back up, grabbing a coffin, telling them all,
This place is getting a little crowded. Gonna snag Mommy here, and
But Venom punches Carnage so hard that he drops the coffin, and then Venom tells him,
As much as we have thoroughly enjoyed this, we're not gonna let you stay alive.
Venom punches again and then asks,
Is Spider-Man right? Are you just an object of hatred or pity? Tell me now, are you worthy of vengeance or protection?
Carnage gets up shaking his head, telling him,
That sure did it. Helped clear out the cobwebs. Now I'm thinking clear as ever.
Venom throws himself onto Carnage, telling him,
We have no choice then. We have to act before you do.
And Carnage shouts,
Slow down! Any further and we're gonna accidentally hit them!
But as Venom lands on the generators, he says,
No, this isn't an accident.
The generators explode into a fiery blast, leaving Spider-Man and Black Cat to just watch. Spider-Man scans the area and sees the body of Cletus Cassidy without Carnage on him. Black Cat stops and says that she doesn't see any traces of Venom's body, so there's a chance that he's alive. And a short distance away, Venom sits on a truck heading into town, telling himself that he's not sure about this. It was Spider-Man's idea. Let him worry about it now. He's real good at that sort of thing. As Captain America and the other Avengers show up, they secure Carnage, and Black Cat looks over and notices that Carnage's mother's coffin was empty. And Spider-Man says, the old empty coffin trick, huh? Wonder what Cassidy was planning. Maybe he didn't leave enough of his mother's body to bury. Either way, with a guy like him, there's no guarantee to a logical explanation. Black Cat then watches as Carnage is taken away and says that it's funny. Even though he's in the Avengers' custody, she's not sure she can ever truly feel safe. Monsters like him have a way of returning. Spider-Man tells her that she needs to have a little faith. Believe it or not, some monsters stay dead and buried forever, and their ghosts can't haunt you unless you allow them. I hope. I hope you guys enjoyed today's full story. Don't forget, we bring these to you every Monday right here at the Comicstorian channel. And check back on a nearly daily basis for more comic book, video game, and movie lore drops, knowledge, and recaps. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you next time right here at the Comicstorian channel.